back for game 3 in this fight between Roccat and the Unicorns of Love. There's a lot on the line as a win can prove to be decisive towards the end of the split. Unicorns of Love have elected to be on the red side. It will be the 3rd time this series that they have that side selection.
Yeah, and it's done well for them historically on red side. Unicorns always like to at least kind of pick one matchup. They like to draft towards stronger top lane a lot of the time. So we'll see whether that ends up going the same way. We'll also see whether we get Kane for a second game here. As,
I mean, you don't pick champions with 100% loss rate, Stress.
Yeah,
you just don't do it. It just doesn't work.
It left a lot to be decided. It's a bit of a feast or famine champion, and as we head into draft number 3,
Roccat are looking very hungry in that game, if it's feast or famine. As you say, we are going to get into picks and bans. Once again, same bans thus far from Roccat. Unicorns of Love have added in that Kha'Zix ban alongside the Elise.
Yeah, because game 1, Pridestalker looked great on the Kha'Zix. Wasn't the same in game 2 for the Kayn. Now, we'd be expecting a Jace if they were going with the rest of the bans, but Kalista taken away. And this is because Unicorns put high priority themselves on the Kalista, and Roccat would likely say, okay, we'll give the Thresh, take the Kalista first pick themselves.
So is there now an AD carry that takes Kalista's spot? Does Trist get first picked here? Do we look at the Jhin as well?
There's a lot of AD carries that could take that spot, and one of them is Xayah, which is why Roccat getting Wadid, one of his best champions, the Rakan, also breaks up the combination for the Unicorns of Love here. If they take the Xayah, that means they can pair it with the Thresh if they want it in this rotation. Otherwise, it'll get banned away. May see the Tahm Kench later in the draft come through for the Unicorns. There are a lot of options in that support role.
Still Thresh there as well if they want to go for that. Xerxe will get his Sejuani once again. Had a superb impact on that in game 2. The jungler of choice for him in terms of tanks at the moment.
Really good setup for the fights was the key thing from Xerxe. Game 1, he played the Cho'Gath and just really struggled to get anywhere near to a team fight. Being able to start them themselves is a lot better for Xerxe. But now Pridestalker, we have the question about what's he playing out of the jungle again, and that's an old favorite for Hjarnan.
Definitely, and I was actually looking back at Hjarnan's history, and he has a superb win percentage on this Sivir pick. I believe it's 74%. 75% win rate on this Sivir. That includes the time he was on H2K at Worlds. He is just so suited to this Sivir pick, and we will see the Syndra as well from Betsy.
Hjarnan, real impressive performances. A long time ago, alongside Xing, that was one of those big Sivir proponents in the bottom lane. Of course, we saw Fnatic playing it last week. If the Braum gets locked in, the Sejuani Braum combination in teamfights is difficult to deal with, as is Braum good against the Sivir. You can deny a lot of the wave clear, a lot of the push power if you can block out the projectiles utilizing the Unbreakable. And Xayah Braum is pretty good. Nevertheless, we're probably going to see a fairly kill-less bottom lane. I say that, but the last 2 games didn't give us that either.
Yeah, I think Samux kind of showed up a few kills in that bottom lane early on.
Now the Unicorns can pinch jungle if they want to, but top lane has been the focus for the last 2 games. Jace was banned out in phase 1 of every previous draft. Of course, we've heard about that being a top lane pick, utilizing the Duskblade, trying to take it away and not allow that. Gnar is another option because Roccat would likely prioritize it. Although they know Vizicsacsi is an Irelia player. So if you do take the Gnar, you risk that side lane matchup going horribly.
So the question is then for Roccat, they've got a relatively similar draft to their last games. They've got their jungler, their support, and their AD carry in that first phase. Sorry, their mid laner. They're now looking at jungler and top. Yep. Where is Pridestalker going to go? Because Kha'Zix has been taken away, his Kayn wasn't that impactful. Does he have to go for a tank jungler now?
So there's a couple of outside tank junglers if he wants it. The Rammus, the Cho'Gath is still there. You saw a Skarner in LCK coming from Score the other day. So there are certainly a lot of secondary tier tanks that are viable out of the jungle.
And once again, they'll go for the Renekton and the LeBlanc bans. Unicorns of Love have gotten rid of the Gragas, so won't be in the top and won't be in the jungle for Roccat.
Could just see the Corki come out here. It is now another scaling pick. One of the big benefits of the Unicorns in the last game is they had the Gnar and the Kalista to have a little bit of potency early on, because this Corki Syndra matchup went away from Exileh.
So Roccat now looking towards jungle and the top lane. Have to see how much Pridestalker is able to adapt to this patch, because we talked about Xerxe's adaptability in wanting to see him play a few more tanky matchups. It's going to be the Warwick into Xerxe. Now, that is a brave pick, because Xerxe was the one who made Warwick a pick in UOL LCS.
Yeah, Xerxe brought it out first, but Pridestalker is one of his most played junglers as well. Started slow for him and actually increased in priority. The Gnar may be just what we see once again here for Chachi up in that top lane into the Jarvan. The Warwick should have a little bit more presence in the early game now. Get into the lanes, actually start skirmishing better than the Kayn did. Yes, it doesn't quite have the same presence around clearing early, but it's still fine. And we actually had looked over the fact that the Camille got let through the ban phase. It had been the Unicorns that banned out the last 2 games.
Yeah, getting that for Vizicsacsi. We saw last week how strong he was on the Fiora. Camille fills a very similar role. Good split pusher, able to isolate people in a team fight as well, and can do a lot of work.
This is a very weird top lane matchup. They both want to fight people inside a cell. There's no Kayn
Hell in
here.
the cell in the top lane.
There's no Kayn, but it may very well be the Hell in the Cell.
Oh,
You
sorry,
got that.
totally,
How did you beat me
totally stole
to
that from you. I
reference?
apologize.
So sad.
I'm so sorry, Sjokz.
But I'm not sad about these compositions because, look, Roccat, they have themselves a setup from the middle lane. They've got a little bit more scaling with Sivir in the team fights. You've got good presence there. Team fight from the top lane. Warwick can get some fights started as well, those earlier skirmishes. But on the side of the Unicorns, once again, Chachi in one lane, Exileh in the other lane, and then you've got good team fighting from Xerxe and the rest of the Unicorns when it ends up being the time to group. So for Unicorns, very similar game to the last one is what they'd be looking for, but they can't quite fight as early unless they get those early kills down onto Samux like they did in game 2.
One team will be the victor at the end of it all. Make sure you get on Twitter, hashtag UOL win and hashtag ROC win. Unicorns of Love are looking for their 4th reverse sweep of the EU LCS summer split. Roccat looking for their 3rd win in a series, and this week is where we saw them really accelerate in Spring Split. This is where they went on that incredible unbeaten spree when they took down OG, when they took down UOL, Fnatic, Giants, and G2. Well, UOL were one of the teams that fell at last split. Will they fall again today?
Roccat, this split seemingly have had blue shell powers, being able to take out the top tier teams once again and failing to those around them, like last week against Mysterious Monkeys wasn't a successful series for them, but Unicorns of Love, I don't think they would have expected to drop a game against Roccat. They dropped a game to Nip, remember, earlier on in the split. So Unicorns, definitely not the cleanest of our top tier teams.
And I don't think that's ever been their style. They don't care about macro play, and this is obviously a little bit over-exaggerated because I'm sure they care about macro.
I don't even know that it is.
They want a team fight. They want to get a fight round mid. They want to have these skirmishes early on. They want to be able to get Exileh to the late game. And if they can get all of those forces combining, then they become this truly powerful menace later on. But Roccat haven't really demonstrated to me that they understand their style a lot of the time. We talked about this especially in game 1. We said they're great at getting a lead, but when do they snowball it? Game 1, they managed to do it. It took them a little bit longer perhaps than it should have done, but they managed to do it. I want to see them do that again here. I want to see them making some early-ish plays, especially around mid when we know Exileh overextends, and then be able to extend that lead into the mid game and close this game out by the 30 to 35 minute mark.
And I think one of the interesting things was we wanted Pridestalker to invest in the bottom side of the map, and he didn't need to in game 1, and it actually was still a benefit for them. They got ahead despite not having jungle presence down in the bottom lane, but game 2, there was no real opportunity because it was Xerxe that was putting all of his attention bot lane, and the Kayn just couldn't get there. So now maybe we'll see Pridestalker heading there early on in this game, but there's always a juicy target when Exileh is taking bad trades in the mid lane.
We've seen him do it time and time again into the Syndra. Unicorns of Love only losing 1 game 3 this split, was up against Splice just before Rift Rivals happened. Phaxi's trading relatively well into Vizicsacsi in the early game top.
Yeah, that top lane matchup is going to be one that we'll look into as the map opens up, as the towers fall. But for now, junglers, I think, are the, I was going to say soup of the day, but I don't know how they're soup. The important thing, Xerxe on the Sejuani, we've seen a couple of times being played. Of course, the armor you get from the passive doesn't drop against monsters in the jungle, so you're very tanky naturally throughout. You have a good clear speed. Warwick's early clear is not amazing, but it actually is fine. You sustain up very similarly. You don't lose a whole lot of health, and that's why you can also go that rejuvenation bead. Kind of nicely goes into the build the later you go. So I'm expecting to see presence from the junglers in the next minute and a half or so. I want to see Xerxe maybe look to get in the middle lane, try and help out Exileh, because this is already going badly, but gotta watch out in case Pridestalker is there too.
Pridestalker, not known for his early ganks on the Warwick, tends to take a little bit more time to get up towards that level 6, has lower jungle proximity than other Warwick players throughout the split. And I want to just focus on Betsy for a second here, Sjokz, because once again, he's gone for the Cleanse as his secondary summoner spell in this mid lane. In game 1, he went Ignite. When he's playing into the Sejuani, we tend to see the Cleanse. It loses him a little bit of kill pressure in this lane against Exileh.
Doesn't look like he's left wanting it right now. Pridestalker here is what we talked about going in mid.
He's on the hunt. Exileh trying to get his way away, uses the barrier early on, but he's pushed back, and that's first blood to Roccat in mid lane.
And again, Exileh gets exploited.
Here comes Xerxe. Phaxi will flash away preemptively. Does not want to get caught by Xerxe.
And again, Roccat coming out of the lead in the middle lane early on, and Betsy historically has not been putting up numbers that puts him in the upper echelons of the EU LCS mid laners. Exileh is somebody who is meant to be on a top team right now, and he consistently is dropping matchups. Now, granted, Syndra into Corki is a good matchup for the Syndra in the laning phase, but he is being picked apart by every single team the Unicorns have faced over the past 3 weeks. And that is a glaring issue for the Unicorns of Love as we get closer and closer to playoffs.
Oh, definitely. Across the rest of the split, they need to be winning these games. They're currently tied in wins with H2K, and if H2K take out G2 later on, Unicorns of Love could fall down to a worse position. It's a worry for them, especially when you're getting towards Worlds and when you're getting towards playoffs and looking for these top spots, because consistently they've been a top team, and now it just doesn't quite look like they have that last step they need to take.
Oh, Xerxe is looking to take advantage of a moment of pressure on the bottom lane as Wadid and Hjarnan have gone aggressive. Xerxe, Q into flash maybe, doesn't need to.
Hjarnan has spell shield, Wadid can get the knock up and jump away, and this is why Sivir can be so good. Hylissang forced back as well. And this is just why Roccat can be a little bit safer in that bottom lane. Samux had a great game last game, and you can see Unicorns of Love are trying to focus towards him once again.
Yeah, there's emphasis on the bottom lane that ultimately ends up going
Xerxe?
nowhere.
Xerxe!
Oh.
Not quite.
Xerxe, I really wanted that kill, but look, Pridestalker is going to try and take advantage of this. Phaxi's got to be careful he doesn't get baited here. He will have that Aegis, but can he stay alive? Does he even commit to the fight?
Here comes Pridestalker trying to force Xerxe back. We'll get some damage down. Phaxi's here and healing up so much as well, and Xerxe has no flash. Roccat looking for the second kill. Oh my goodness gracious me.
Oh, Pridestalker not quite able to get the kill there. Xerxe, despite not having the flash, got himself out alive. Now it's Xerxe going middle lane.
Betsy's 6 though. He needs to be careful because that unleashed power.
And Xerxe's level 4 from that time he spent in the bottom lane setting up that long route gank. And Xerxe, like, Pridestalker knows that Xerxe is only level 4, so that's why he's going aggressive now. Sees him on the ward, Pridestalker's going to just walk up, steal away this camp and say, no, you're going to stay behind on experience, because Betsy is able to easily come across.
It's just great play from Pridestalker, especially being in the right position at the right time. Yes, he wasn't quite able to kill Xerxe up towards that top side, but able to push him back, and we actually saw Phaxi backing away once again to pick himself up a control ward and a pair of boots.
And normally the effect of losing a mid lane matchup doesn't extend much more past not being able to make plays around mid and not being able to control the jungle and the pathways around mid lane. But when you lose so much pressure like this, that Pridestalker is easily able to ward and walk into the jungle and fight you, that's one of the downfalls of tank junglers like Sejuani, is you can't commit to that fight. You have nothing to bring to that, so you just have to lose experience here, and that's how detrimental it is in favor of Roccat.
Exileh flashes early, Pridestalker there. There's the stun though, and this is going to be another kill. Pridestalker on the prowl, 2-0 in this early game.
Exileh once again pushing up with the wave, doesn't have control of the mid lane, couldn't see the Warwick getting into the lane, and the experience advantage for Pridestalker gave him his ultimate earlier than Xerxe. Xerxe was nowhere to be found, and Exileh just isn't able to survive in that lane anymore. Exileh, somehow, the Unicorns have to learn that if Exileh is being put on an island, whether it's because of his own mistakes or because Xerxe isn't going, they have to stop him dying. They cannot let him hemorrhage leads. He's pushed up. Sejuani is in base at this point, and Exileh has no vision. Now, granted, he's trying to push out to recall, but it's a risky timing to do that, and unfortunately, it's lose-lose for Exileh.
Exactly, and I totally agree with you. They need to try and keep Exileh safe, but you can't stop someone from pushing up in a lane if they want to. And Exileh spends 30% of his laning phase past that mid lane. It's the highest of any mid laner in the league, and he pays for it. Hjarnan is going to get jumped on here. We'll pop the on the hunt to try and get himself away. We might look for the re-engage. Not 6 yet, though, so it doesn't have the quickness.
But remember, this is a matchup and matchups in general that Unicorns keep picking themselves into. If they really wanted winning mid lane matchups, they've had red side 3 games in a row. You could counterpick with the last pick and definitely have a winning matchup.
As well, Syndra's been picked before Corki every single time.
And that's the other half of that is if you desperately wanted a winning mid lane matchup, you could pick something that is able to contend with the Syndra. Now, LeBlanc has been banned, but there are lots of things like, you know, the likes of an Echo that does well in that matchup specifically, but Unicorns stray away from that because they want teamfight presence from Exileh. That is their playstyle, and that is the reason they are picking these rough matchups. But I am not convinced that they are able to compensate for these matchups consistently enough.
Here comes the Hextech ultimatum as Phaxi gets locked in. The Cataclysm comes down as well. He'll try and flash away. Phaxi, Glacial Prism! Xerxe is just like, oh no, you're not going to escape, and Hylissang will have to try and escape as Pridestalker jumps in. Hylissang gets the concussive blows off. There's the heal as well. Roccat will be able to back away from this for the time being.
Oh, Hylissang burned down!
Was that just the red smite?
He had the red buff as well. Like that
and the ignite as well must have been ticking on him. We'll get the replay of that in just a second because Roccat are going to continue to push, and Betsy's on his way. Samux has flash, but it decides just to retreat from the tower, gives it up. First tower might go over to Roccat. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Phaxi is going to find the waiting arms of Xerxe. That's a ball to the face, and Phaxi, just trying to get his way away, is stunned underneath the tower. Xerxe can tank for days. Another kill to UOL.
Now that is going to help out the Unicorns playing around this Camille in the later stages of this game. You can see G2 watching on now, trying to get ready for their series coming up against H2K next. But look, Unicorns, we talked about how they didn't prioritize mid, they're prioritizing top on these exchanges. They know Phaxi doesn't have a flash available. Ultimatum comes through from Vizicsacsi into the crowd control out of Xerxe, and despite Phaxi looking like he could get away, he ain't going nowhere as the Glacial Prison comes out. And then Hylissang takes a lot of damage in the trade. I believe it is the ignite plus the red red buff ticking on Hylissang is able to take him down. That's a lot of damage coming through that I don't think Hylissang was expecting at the end of it.
And Roccat were able to get first tower off that as well. A trend we have seen throughout this series, Stress, is the team ahead at the 15-minute mark is the team that takes the game. Roccat here at 11 minutes have a 1,500 gold lead, and they're playing relatively well around it as well. They're going up towards top. They've initiated this lane swap. Unicorns of Love will react to it.
Yeah, of course. That reaction from Roccat going up to the top side is Unicorns are trying to capitalize on this CS lead up in the top side, having that side control with nearly at Trinity Force for Vizicsacsi.
And we've seen Chachi pop off on these top laners when he's on a carry. He can really accelerate his team's lead, and it's something we've seen from Unicorns of Love is you just need 1 or 2 members to really step up. Is it Chachi or is it Samux this game? At the moment, it looks like it's going to be Chachi. Hjarnan pops the on the hunt, Wadid going for the engage. Here's Pridestalker from across the side, a suppression, but it's on to Xerxe, and the teleport's going to join the fight. Riptailed like, I want a piece of this action, please. Pridestalker gets away. He's out, but Chachi jumps in onto Betsy. The unleashed power hits him in the face. Take a ball to the back, and now we're going to see the engage back onto Betsy. Here's Exileh, eventually joins the fight. Where is Phaxi? Here he comes. He's taken the taxi. He's a slow one. They managed to get a counter kill. The Cataclysm comes on to 2, and it's going to be a 3-for-2 exchange in favor of Roccat.
Roccat overall take the second half of the fight, and it looked rough when Pridestalker dropped so low in the middle of the fight, ulting his way straight into the Unicorns of Love lineup. But from there, Roccat are able to turn it around when Phaxi actually arrived. But look, Hjarnan has pushed up on his own in the lane. He has his flash.
This is dangerous.
Gets stunned anyway.
Into concussive blows can just chase him down. He will get under the tower. Will it be enough? He turns it back around onto Xerxe, realizes that Xerxe can't chase him down too easily.
Realizes there's 2 tanks as well, and he's like, I can take this fight.
I've been killed by a Sejuani more times than I can count.
It must be painful if you get trampled by it. So this was the engage that started out. Of course, Hjarnan blocks out some of the engage tools here, and Roccat look to take the fight. They know Wadid can take up a lot of time out of the Roccat lineup here, and Pridestalker ends up getting away and delaying some of this fight for a whole lot longer. Sjokz goes into the fight. I wonder whether he was looking for Pridestalker on that ultimate and just ended up getting Betsy, because they do inevitably get the damage down in the end of all things, kill Betsy. But look, Exileh, Sjokz, flash over the wall, not expecting the Jarvan perhaps to go that aggressively onto them, and it leaves them inside the Cataclysm with no escape mechanism.
You've separated the tanks of Unicorns of Love from their squishy backline. Like, Xerxe and Hylissang were the ones in the river, and everyone else is like, nah, we're going to flash over the wall and go for the kill. And it meant that Roccat were able to get those kills. And now we do approach that 15-minute mark, the fatal 15 minutes, I'm going to call it, and they are still ahead. Hylissang is going to meet up against Wadid and Pridestalker, who cannot take him down yet, but Pridestalker 3-1-3 on this Warwick is having a superb early game.
Look at the difference in playstyle for Pridestalker when he has this lead, this aggressive style. Like, he can pick up kills on Hylissang, utilizing the red smite under the tower. He's just able to go aggressive into fights. He did get punished in that last one, maybe for being a little overzealous, but in the end of all things, Roccat is still extending this lead that comes from it. And I like seeing Roccat being active around Pridestalker.
I totally agree with you, and actually this is something we started to see from Roccat when they were winning in the spring split. It was active around their jungler. Phaxi's going to get jumped on here with the Hextech ultimatum. Xerxe there as well. Permafrost stun, locks him underneath the tower, and Unicorns of Love are very happy to die. Phaxi tries to put down the Cataclysm to keep the boar in a cage, but you cannot cage Xerxe. This is no zoo for you. Flashes away. Betsy. Phaxi gets the kill with the turret shot. Sjokz will jump his way away with the wall jump. But here come the rest of Roccat. They are on the hunt. They're on the prowl. They want to catch out Sjokz once again. An isolation kill for him. The charm lands Hjarnan there as well as Sjokz tries to get his way away. Wall jump. Grapple. Pridestalker says, oh no you don't. Another kill for the wolf in the jungle.
At this point, Sjokz with no flash, no mana, can't get himself away, means a Roccat likely to commit to taking down this bottom lane tower. But again, we spoke in the previous game about how good Unicorns of Love can be at taking objectives when they know they're losing them elsewhere. And look, they put Samux, he's been in the top lane for a while now, pushes forward, takes down the tower, moves over to Rift Herald, or at least Hylissang. His Samux was on a different page. He was actually recalling out, so the Unicorns of Love maybe not quite together on this.
But you know what is together? Rockat's decision-making around Pridestalker. This is the most kills and assists he has had at 15 minutes, and it's the largest goal difference he's had at 15 minutes across the entire split as well. I don't want to hype them up too much yet, Stress, but is this the Roccat revival that we all wanted to see? Because they get Mountain Drake, and now they're going to get the Rift Herald as well, and Unicorns are not answering these objectives.
Yeah, I mean, if Roccat do win this series, it is maybe time to start talking about that Roccat revival, because realistically, nobody would expect Roccat to be beating the Unicorns of Love here. Everybody always also expects the Unicorns of Love when there's a new patch, they got crazy things, let's see them do some fun stuff out of the jungle. They bring the Cho'Gath in game 1. Again, doesn't really have the impact. And Pridestalker, this is perhaps one of his best series that we've seen. When you look at games 1 and 3, game 2, he didn't really have an opportunity to get into the game. And the Kayn pick didn't quite work out.
He just wanted to show us what Kayn looks like, you know? It's just like, oh guys, it's 7:14. Let the audience have a quick look at Kayn in case you haven't seen it in your games. In case the 10-ban system means you can never get it.
Probably not in a lot of games, but realistically, Unicorns of Love aren't out of this game without a fight right now, because they're starting to reach a couple of break points. Sjokz has that Trinity Force, as does Exileh. We're looking to get a little later in the game with this Xayah, the Essence Reaver build that we've come to expect for later game damage. Lower cooldown on the E, extra critical strike damage.
Sjokz trading into Phaxi once again. This is the role we wanted to see from Sjokz. We said in picks and bans, it's kind of a 1-3-1 or a 1-4 with Sjokz in a side lane. He has a 50 CS lead over Phaxi. However, my mind harks back a few weeks when Roccat were playing up against Fnatic and Phaxi played that Jarvan. And it doesn't matter if you go 1-13, as long as you win the game at the end. I'm sure Phaxi's thinking that to himself at the moment. He knows the final destination of the taxi. He's just not quite sure how he's going to get there yet.
The 13th death was the charm on that game. Managed to soak up Soaz and Reckless and be able to take them down. But look, Sjokz pushes the bottom lane tower because Phaxi had to back himself away, and that lead that Sjokz has for himself is only getting bigger and bigger. It's at 1,800 gold right now, so Roccat need to try and force fights in order to bring Sjokz away from the side lane, and that's where they have to be active with Betsy. They have to be looking for stuns, they have to try and get Pridestalker to land ultimates. If they don't get that, then Unicorns will be content to have Sjokz out on the side lane.
I want to do another comparison here, Sjokz, because the last two series we've talked, the last two games we've talked about Unicorns of Love having the scaling, Roccat being the team that needed to make the early plays. Here, they've got a Sivir, they've got a Syndra, they've got a Warwick. Do Roccat actually match Unicorns of Love in terms of scaling here, or is it still a Unicorns of Love favored late game?
Roccat still have decent scaling. It depends on Jarvan being able to get fights started on multiple people, but speaking of fights being started, Sjokz gonna channel the ultimate.
Hjarnan does not have the ultimate of his own and it's cancelled. Teleport does not come in from Sjokz.
Sivir, you've got to remember, when she's in the meta, has this massive amount of critical strike damage in late game fights because Ricochet can crit all the way through the fight. That's a 1v1.
Not for long.
Now.
Betsy's on his way. Xerxe ultimatum actually dodges the stun. The unleashed power comes out. Sjokz manages to escape. Rift Tower brought up in the top lane. That's another member for Roccat to fight around the charm. Onto the back line as Samux gets caught up. He's going to Featherstorm to try and get his way away. Sjokz did escape in the bottom. A great blade caller back catches up Phaxi. And here comes Exileh straight onto the back line. That's one for him. He's looking for Hjarnan as well. That will be his second. A double for Exileh. Wadid jumps onto his lover, says, "Hug me, please, Samux." And Samux says, "Oh no, you don't." A feather to the face. Pridestalker's going to try and take out Exileh, but he just can't do it. Exileh gets the triple. Unicorns get the fight, and they look to be back in this game.
Roccat commit to the fight in the top side, not really realizing that the Unicorns, they've already dealt significant damage up front. Pridestalker tried to go aggressive into this fight early on, and at this point, look, Xerxe, Hylissang, Samux, they're playing this, they're trying to wait for Roccat to commit and then go from the side. They get the ultimate combination coming down from Braum. And as soon as they're in the fight, there's not really a whole lot that Roccat can end up doing because Hjarnan got frozen out for so long. And despite Betsy not being in the fight for Roccat, look who can make it there. Phaxi had the teleport available, whereas Vizicsacsi did not. And this is exactly what Roccat were trying to play into, but then Exileh's so high health. It doesn't matter at this point. Roccat are trying desperately to go aggressive, but Unicorns of Love just have enough damage on the back end of it. Look at that. They just completely outdamaged the Roccat lineup.
And a lot of that has to be the fact that Betsy was down into the bottom lane as well. If you have a Syndra there who can land a few, scatter the weaks, who can get some people stunned up, perhaps you turn that fight around. But they weren't able to kill Sjokz, and they weren't able to win the fight in the top side. Now Unicorns group in the mid lane. A 4-man squad, 5-man squad looking for this tower. Roccat will be able to defend for the time being. They are 200 gold ahead at the 20-minute mark. Still a lead, Sjokz. Still a lead.
It is. When looking at how Roccat are wanting to play, though, that fact that that's their only lead is really detrimental because we know Unicorns love to fight at this point in the game.
Samux takes a chunk. Sjokz there as well. He jumps onto Hjarnan. There's the unleashed power. Hylissang low. Pridestalker's got a kill. And perhaps this is Unicorns losing a fight in the mid lane. I can't believe my eyes as Roccat take down 2. They're looking for more. Pridestalker still getting all the kills. He's trying to prowl his way on towards the board that is Xerxe.
Part of the reason why Unicorns end up losing that fight is Samux drops very low at the beginning and then realistically was only looking to try and get the Featherstorm to come back out, and he couldn't get enough damage down, didn't get enough stuns down to be able to stop that, but here we go. Smite versus Smite. Pridestalker, Smite-Stalker trying to secure it for himself.
Here we go, Xerxe jumps in, but Pridestalker secures it. Xerxe does not have flash to get his way out, and he's going to fall as well. Roccat on a killing spree as they go 11-9 up with a Baron in their back pocket as well. The TP in from Sjokz though, Unicorns are not done yet. Phaxi flashes the wall and Sjokz goes the wrong way. Here comes the tactical sweep, perhaps looking to catch out Hjarnan. Exileh's killed Pridestalker, the rest of Roccat get away.
And this is turning into a very Unicorns of Love game right now where they're trying to scrap their way back into this. Of course, Unicorns trying to fight for the lead in Group B. They desperately need this win. They can't drop a series to Roccat. A lot of people would say, okay, they're safe in the group. They should be able to make playoffs, but you're fighting for that first place spot. And if you're losing to the team that is in 4th place in the opposite group, that's not a really confident message to send heading back into group play.
Especially when you look at the rest of their group as well. Mysterious Monkeys are stepping up. Vitality are stepping up. Splice are looking good as well. Unicorns of Love are facing down a very real possibility that they lose to go down to third place, never mind second. Glacial Fissure will come out from Hylissang. They're looking for their first Mountain Drake of the game. Pridestalker's not there, so it should be an easy secure for the Unicorns.
But they did just bounce back in that fight. As bad as it has looked at points, Unicorns are on the upswing in this game. Exileh is powering up, so is Vizicsacsi maintaining a lead, and so is Samux. Like, Unicorns, they have this late game insurance, and Roccat need to pressure with this Baron. They need to keep marching forward and getting further objectives.
That's exactly what they're doing. They will take the mid lane tower. They will have a 3,000 gold lead over the Unicorns 23 minutes in. We talked time and time again about Hjarnan this series. He's sitting at 1-1-7, involved in a lot of his team's kills, and has been able to stay safe in a lot of these fights as well, which is so important. Exileh looking for the engage. Actually just going to run down mid. I thought there was someone there. For some reason in my mind, a Roccat member was there, but it's just a Valkyrie to push in the lane. Yeah,
trying to just get to that mid tower as fast as possible, get it down and open up some of the rift for themselves, trying to recoup some of the gold that Roccat just swung in their favor off that Baron. But look, Hjarnan's bottom side, if Unicorns wanted to fight, they could actually take advantage of the fact that Hjarnan has just showed himself in the lane. Xerxe doesn't commit to anything, and that means they're not actually punishing the fact that Roccat were without their AD carry.
Roccat do lose a tower in the mid, but take a tier 2 in the bottom lane. Only one tier 2 remaining as Wadid, Hjarnan, Phaxi, and Betsy and Pridestalker, all of Roccat, in fact, look for this inhibitor tower. Unicorns of Blood are going to try and react. Yeah,
Hjarnan was setting up the wave to push it into the tower. Spell shields just in case Chachi jumps on him, so you can block that stun. Of course, that is quite a significant cooldown now, so they got to be careful.
I feel the problem is, whichever team gets engaged on here, you feel kind of loses the fight. There's good disengage from Unicorns of Love, but if Phaxi manages to jump onto Samux or onto Exileh, they can be caught out and melted down with this unleashed power.
Roccat are going to basically build towards getting more fights, though. Roccat want to be the aggressors. You can see Wadid looking for that righteous glory now, trying to just start fights as fast as possible. Pridestalker is going to want to get into the fights as well. He's had that Titanic Hydra for a while, now building towards resistances on top of it.
And you have to give credit to Pridestalker as well. His early game here was very strong. We've talked about his weaknesses on the Warwick before. We talked about the fact that Xerxe may be able to spot him out, know exactly where he's going, but he's surprised time and time again, and has made these aggressive plays early in the game, which is something we would not have seen from him a few weeks ago.
And look at the map state right now. Chachi having to recall because Roccat are threatening on the top side. That is exactly what Roccat wants. They want Chachi to be out of the lane as he didn't have teleport. If Chachi had pushed up in the lane and actually maybe tried to trade with Phaxi, it's highly likely Roccat would have engaged on the top side. So at least seeing Chachi recall means that they alleviate the pressure on bottom lane. They can push it back out, try then to make another play in a couple of minutes' time.
I think the problem for Roccat is that Phaxi's about 9 kills away from that perfect number. And as soon as he gets 9 deaths, so as soon as he gets to that 13 death total, that's when they can actually pull the trigger and win this game. Betsy has got 2 completed items in the Leandri's Torment and the Morello Nomicon, and they're going to engage onto Hylissang. The suppression comes out. They'll catch him out with a charm. Betsy is on a rampage, as are Roccat. There's a fight in the mid lane as Chachi jumps onto Phaxi, and the Cataclysm will not save Phaxi for long. Chachi swipes him away. It's another kill for the Unicorns top laner.
And Chachi trying to keep the Unicorns in this game, trying to find Phaxi at every single opportunity. So Roccat will be happy that they get the tower there, but at this point, it's stalling them out is the only thing the Unicorns can hope for. Stalling them for a later game where Roccat maybe don't quite know the right decisions to make. But look, Hjarnan has finished the rapid fire cannon as well, getting stronger and stronger with every passing minute. But you have to pride Roccat a little bit, or at least give them props, because this is faster acceleration on the game than we have seen before. This is a better use of the likes of the Syndra than we saw last week. What hasn't been quite so good is the fact that Vizicsacsi is so far ahead because of the time spent by Xerxe in the top lane. It's given him the strength that in this matchup, the Camille can go toe-to-toe easily with the Jarvan and just end up trading him down. Has control of the side lane, control of the mid lane when they fight together, and realistically, Phaxi is not a whole lot more than a knock-up and an ultimate right now.
Xerxe is one of those players that last split looked incredible.
Yeah.
On a similar wavelength as Exileh, actually, probably his best split of his career thus far. And this split just hasn't really giving me the consistency that I would like to see from a top-tier top laner. Some games, he does this. Some games, he absolutely dominates his opponent. And other games, he falls behind and isn't able to make the impact you would like to see from him.
I think that's very fair, considering MVP of the spring split, cutting tricks, MVP streak, has had previously been 2-time, but Vizicsacsi not quite looking up to the same. He's had some great moments, but look, Hylissang this time is caught.
The damage does come down. There's the Glacial Prism. They've caught Betsy. The Glacial Prism will be cleansed, but they get the kill. Pridestalker looking for Sjokz. Can't quite get there, and Hjarnan and Wadid are on their way. There's the charm. Here comes Phaxi. That's a kill. And actually, Roccat may be able to turn this one around. Unicorns of Love lose 2, and perhaps they're going to lose a little bit more. Roccat are on the prowl. Wadid's going to look for the jump in. Samux has to flash away, but here comes Wadid. Grand entrance. Not able to make the connection. Hjarnan and Pridestalker are still on their way. Hjarnan's going to flash. Look at the damage from Hjarnan. That's what you want to see from a late game ADC.
And now they turn around, try and go towards the Baron. Roccat having a lot of damage coming from the bottom lane, and Betsy managing to, it looked like he instantly cleansed out of the Sejuani ultimate. Looking forward to seeing that replay once again, because look, Roccat now are able to commit to the Baron easily. They will get second Baron here, and Roccat are in full control. This is very similar to game number 1, the way that they're looking to snowball.
5,000 gold lead around the 30-minute mark, and this is what made it happen.
So it looks like Sjokz started the engage off, trying to get onto Betsy in the middle lane, because they know if they can just get this fight started, then everything will go their way. Betsy, whew, looked like an instant cleanse there as it connected. And Unicorns of Love then, look, Sjokz was low, Hylissang was low, and it's an easy set of pickups for the Unicorns of Love. Sorry, for Roccat on the Unicorns of Love, as this fight just chases up through the jungle. It's a matter of time before the Syndra's caught again.
Betsy's going to get chunked out. The Unleashed Power comes onto Sjokz, but that's not enough. And that's a great catch for the Unicorns of Love. Not sure what Betsy was doing there.
And they're still going to have the Sejuani ultimate soon. Pridestalker now trying to take the fight.
Unleashed Power comes out the knock. There's a charm onto 4, though. What can Hjarnan do here? He's melting through Hylissang. Pridestalker's going to fall as well.
Oh,
2 kills down. A great Glacial Prism on it towards Hjarnan as well. Another double kill for Exileh. And Unicorns of Love have turned this one straight on its head.
Hjarnan thought he was safe, but Pridestalker ended up dying so quickly that Hjarnan is an easy target for that Sejuani ultimate. Now the Unicorns of Love, from being down the Baron buff, from being down the fight, Roccat looked like they were in such a good position. A fight happens in the jungle, and Roccat are once again on the back foot.
And you've got Wadid and Phaxi to try and defend. You haven't got much damage. You haven't really got a way of stopping Unicorns of Love getting this inhibitor. 30 minutes in, the gold has now shrunk to 2,000 of just that one fight, and an inhibitor goes down to the Unicorns of Love.
Phaxi and Wadid are going to try and chase the Unicorns back out of their base, just to deny the recalls for as long as possible, because there was a tower in the top side that did just die. But look, this is how the fight started. Betsy was standing on a ward. The teleport came through from Vizicsacsi, and they're able to cut Betsy off. And look, from there, they kite down into the fight around Pridestalker, and I think Pridestalker actually takes the fight against Vizicsacsi here. Actually tries to trade against him, and look, Sjokz kites back towards the backside of the fight, but it's not enough. And from there, look, Pridestalker dies. Hylissang doesn't get the opportunity to spell shield that ultimate throughout the fight. The bolus just kind of cuts underneath everybody, locks him down, and then all the damage is gone.
And Hjarnan, with that Unbreakable, with that shield, just forms a separating line. Sorry, Hylissang, with the Unbreakable, forms a separating line from Hjarnan and Pridestalker, meaning that damage is not getting through. Those ricochets aren't critting on towards that backline, which is exactly what Roccat wanted in that fight.
And that's exactly the reason, though, that Hylissang has ended up picking this Braum. It was in response to the Syndra in phase 1, but now Roccat want to try and go again with ADC here.
Unleashed Power, they're looking for Hylissang. He's the front line. He's going to go down quite quickly. Look at Samux as well, half HP. There's no even Phaxi in this fight. It's a 4v4 now. Phaxi's going to join from the side. And Roccat do still have Baron buffs on the Jarvan, on the Rakan. They might look up towards the top lane.
And without the Braum, Unicorns look like they can't quite teamfight as effectively. They only just have had Xerxe's ultimate come back available, and Samux used his during that. Exileh and Hjarnan trading that first initial auto attack in the trade, and Exileh comes up a little bit better from it. But look, Hjarnan has so much damage that if he can actually get a focused amount of auto attacks out, he can just shred right the way through the Unicorns.
Still no inhibitor tower for Roccat. The Baron buff is about to expire, and Unicorns of Love are the ones who won the last few minutes of this game. They are able to slowly come back into it.
And we're seeing evidence of why this Syndra pick has started cropping up a couple of times now. You've got the ability to just get fights started utilizing the On the Hunt. You have good late game damage. Once you have the fourth item of whether it's Lord Dominic's, Mortal Reminder, whichever you need, you can cut through tanks using the crit damage as well there and just shred down the enemy tanks. That's one of the reasons why we're going to see less lethality AD carries and more of these crit or Blade of the Ruin King style AD carries, is because the lethality is based on flat armor penetration as opposed to percentage, like the Sivir ends up getting utilizing this Lord Dominic's. It's just way better.
Makes a lot of sense, and if Hjarnan can have time to get those ricochets off, to get those auto attacks off, Roccat can definitely win a fight. But what we have seen from Unicorns of Love is the isolation they bring, the ability to lock someone out with the Hextech Ultimatum, with the Glacial Prism. You can really catch someone out very effectively. Unicorns of Love, their team fights, their skirmishes are still top-notch, and they are playing around them pretty perfectly when we get later on into the game. That's
the anomalous factor for the Unicorns of Love that you can't quantify.
Charm's gonna land. That's a dead Exile. Unicorns of Love on the back foot. Chachi's off towards the bottom side, but is he gonna be too late to join the fight? He's onto Hjarnan, and he puts down the Hextech Ultimatum, but Hjarnan is surviving, and Roccat are able to take 2 kills. Unicorns of Love caught unawares.
That might just be the end of the inhibitors here for Unicorns of Love, because Roccat want to fight some more.
Pridestalker's just going in, totally takes out Samux by himself. Phaxi and Pridestalker might just look for the chase here with Xerxe and Hylissang running away from this. The ability of Pridestalker to maim this Unicorns of Love squad is incredible. They might do it, as you say, Stress. 20 seconds left on Exile. That's the inhibitor falling.
Medic, Roccat are about to beat the Unicorns of Love. Blue Shell powers have activated, and they are facing a top-tier team, and they're about to get a 2-1 win.
The reverse sweeps are ended for the Unicorns of Love, and Roccat are revived. Is this the start of a winning spree? We'll have to wait and see, but Roccat today will take the 2-1.
It's a very happy day for some of the regular Roccat fans in attendance, flags waving in the audience. An unexpected but very deserved win from Roccat here against some of the toughest competition in Europe in the Unicorns of Love. That was a great victory and proved that Roccat had worked on some of the errors in last week's play that we saw against Mysterious Monkeys. They snowballed these games out of the mid, out of the early game, much better.
Definitely, and on the other side, Unicorns of Love fell flat at team fights, which is never where we expect them to fall flat. Every time Roccat were winning fights, it was in that mid lane. It was where Unicorns tend to thrive, tend to be amazing. They just weren't able to connect the dots they needed today.
But another week goes by, and it's more of the same from the Unicorns. An inability to stem the bleeding in mid lane, an inability to control the early game in multiple portions, and despite game 2 looked great from a couple of skirmishes going through, they don't consistently seem able to hang on to the early game. And Roccat came in seemingly with a game plan, knowing they could get a lead in the early game, and had worked on how to snowball. And that's one thing you've got to say, is teams are going to recognize where the openings are against the Unicorns and play out well to close the game.
And you have to give credit to Roccat as well. Their first win since week 3 of the LCS. Feels like a long, long time ago that they beat out NIP, but now looking like they're in a much better spot. After 2 tough losses, Roccat secured an impressive win over the Unicorns of Love. Let's go to the analyst desk to find out more on game 3.
Thank you very much, Medic. And it was in week 7 on this game date in the spring split that Roccat started their resurgence. They went 2-1 versus Origin, 2-0 over Vitality. They beat Fnatic 2-1. They beat the Giants 2-0, 2-0 over Misfits, and 2-1 over G2. Now they beat the Unicorns of Love. how much is this the start of another resurgence for Roccat based off what we've seen over this series, Vedi?
I do not think it. I think that Roccat did a great job of punishing the weaknesses of the Unicorns of Love. You heard the casters talking about it. We've been talking about it for a while. The early game is not the strongest, right? And a lot of the credit has to go to Pridestalker. This man played exceptionally well throughout the early game, setting up fantastic ganks, finding great opportunities to shut down laners, utilizing the fact that he had powerful tools in the form of a Sivir, a Syndra, an overextended Xerxe. Like, this guy was reading the map and finding so many great advantages in the early game that propelled Roccat forward into these
Vedius,
great
why
fights.
are you being so hard on them then?
I mean, the reason why I'm being hard is because, like, this is actually one of the better fights for the Unicorns of Love initially, but then Roccat find these great turnarounds. And it's just because I feel like Unicorns of Love, when they commit to a decision, it's often just on the decision of a coin flip, where sometimes they decide this is a good fight, sometimes they decide it's bad, and because it's so inconsistent, they just often in this game didn't find the right fight.
I'll agree with you there, but the Unicorns of Love are on a 3-series win streak up until now, and yes, they failed at Rift Rivals, but they do what they're good at, and no other team has been able to beat them at that, so props to Roccat from my side at least.
Yeah, for sure, and I kind of gotta agree with Vedius. I really want to praise Roccat highly because they have the most Swedes in the LCS, so that's obviously something that spells quality.
What is
that, one? Yeah. 2. 2. No, but I just think that the performance was not consistent enough to draw big conclusions from. No. Look at that game 2. You can't say that this team's gonna go 7-0 in the last games. But it was impressive.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Obviously, it wasn't a 2-0 snowball victory, but I think it's nice to kind of draw the line to last split and how they research, because if they found it within themselves, sounds very philosophical, but to get that mental shift and kind of tap into what they did then, it could be a good start-off point.
The big thing for me is the fact that, okay, so we talked a lot about Pridestalker, but you're also seeing what happens when Hjarnan and Wadid have this other front line, have these other players to play around. Betsy landed a lot of great stuns. Phaxi was probably the weak point of the team this game, getting caught out a lot, but when it was Roccat engaging the fights, he was the main facilitator. And so when Wadid and Hjarnan have this great pillar to play around, that's where you can see how strong this Roccat lineup actually can be.
Pridestalker was our player of the series, given his Kayn in game 2 was not that impressive, but his Kha'Zix and his, damn, why did I just forget what he played in the last game? It was also a Pridestalker. It was Warwick, because I made the connection to a Kha'Zix and a Warwick, which fit his name and his playstyle very, very well. And that is obviously the key. Whenever we do see Roccat doing well, it is because Pridestalker is able to work with the team and make something happen. So they just need to replicate that over and over. And as you just saw, Roccat, they pulled off a huge, huge upset by taking down the Unicorns of Love, and Drakos is standing by with their top laner and AD carry.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. I am joined by Phaxi and Hjarnan. First question to you, Hjarnan. What was the key to success for taking down the Unicorns of Love, taking down a top team in the LCS?
I think we just, I don't know actually, we just played our game, and they were not as strong as HJK and stuff early game, I think. So we actually managed to scale up, and we could go for a comp that has a bit more scaling, I think. And we throw quite some fight, I think, in the last game as well, because they've done it a bit cleaner, I think. But overall, we just did what we did in practice, and I don't know. It was quite easy, I think, in the end. But
all right, quite easy. A lot of confidence there. Now, one match that wasn't easy for you guys was that matchup versus H2K. Phaxi, what was the difference between playing up against H2K and Unicorns of Love in the early game? Why were you able to succeed here, but maybe not succeed against H2K?
I don't actually know what happened. I think H2K is just a really good team. Like, they're a lot better than UOL, I would say, right now. Like, their early game is actually really good, and they always play good on their tempo. And so we just try to learn from them to just play on our tempo when we can and win the game.
Definitely looks like it paid off for you guys. Now, looking forward, is this the start of another surge for Roccat? I don't want to say winning streak, but I'm going to say winning. Is this the start of another winning streak? I'll ask both of you to answer that question. Phaxi first.
Maybe it is. Like, right now, I think we have a really good grasp of the meta, what we have to pick right now, in drafting-wise and, like, how to play. So I think it might happen something like that, yeah.
All right, actually, I'm going to interrupt there because you just brought up that you feel like you guys have a good grasp of the meta.
Yeah.
7-14 is crazy to me. So, Hjarnan, why don't you share with us what some of that good grasp of the meta looks like? Like, what is good on this patch? So much has changed.
I think it's a bit hard to say right now. Some people first pick like Sjokz and stuff like this. So I don't know. I don't know if you have a good grasp or not about the meta, but maybe he has, but I don't know. But yeah, I don't know actually. We will see what happens.
All right. Maybe still a little bit in shock across the team, reeling from the most recent victory. Now, our next match coming up next is going to be G2 versus H2K. I'm curious what your guys' predictions are going to be for that series. We'll start with you, Hjarnan.
I didn't listen actually. I zoned out.
G2, H2K, who takes it? What's the score?
Oh, that is a hard one actually. But I think H2K.
H2K 2-1, 2-0.
2-0.
2-0 H2K. Phaxi, what do you got for me?
Actually, I'll say H2K too, but 2-1 though.
2-1 H2K, 2-0 H2K. Yeah. All right, well, the Roccat boys clearly in favor of H2K. We'll find out who takes it when we get back from a break. G2 versus H2K coming up next. Don't go anywhere.
Phaxi's here healing up so much as well, and Xerxe has no flash. Roccat looking for the second kill. Oh my goodness gracious me. Where is Phaxi? Here he comes. He's taken the taxi. He's a slow one. They managed to get a counter kill. The Cataclysm comes on to 2, and it's going to be a 3-for-2 exchange. A double for Exileh. Wadid jumps onto his lover, says, hug me please, Samux, and Samux says, oh no you don't, a feather to the face. Pridestalker is going to try and take out Exileh, but he just can't do it.
Nice, that's a flash, Sage. Corki afterwards. Come back, go back.
But is he going to be too late to join the fight? He's onto Hjarnan, and he puts down the Hexagon Maiden, but Hjarnan is surviving, and Roccat are able to take 2 kills. Are revived. Is this the start of a winning spree? We'll have to wait and see, but Roccat